switch off my camera at the moment so that the bandwidth is not affected and you can just hear the audio. So as Preeti announced, your active participation is important throughout the session. Right now, we have everyone on mute, or if you're not on mute, we would request you to just put your, mics on mute. That would avoid background noise. Could we just request you to put your mics on mute? Thank you. Oh. Okay. Throughout the presentation, someone on our staff will be managing the chat functionality. So if you have any questions while the presentation is going on, you can enter your question in the chat window. If you'd rather ask in person, you can also use the icon on the control panel or to raise your hand to indicate that you have a question, and we will then unmute your mic. Okay, well, without further ado, I would like to just go to the agenda for today. First up, we would like to give you an overview of the past, current, and upcoming projects of the Goethe Institute. Most of these projects have been conceptualized keeping today's topic in mind. We will then go on to showcase one of our best practice digital projects, the Kinder University, and their success stories in Moscow, Washington, and Boston. Later, we come to one of the most exciting segments and something I think all of us are eagerly waiting for, the panel discussion on today's topic of 21st century approach to education, how online education bridges learning gaps. So we will start with our short presentation on VCU.
Can you see me, Anita?
Yes, not yet. Yes, I can see you. Yes. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mrs. Kaur, Director of Modern High School for Girls, Kolkata, and Modern Academy of Continuing Education. Mrs. Kaur has been associated with the Goethe Institute since the start of our journey with PASH, and probably even before that with so much cultural exchange. We are indeed very glad that you have agreed to be the moderator for this session. And thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Anita, would you like to introduce the other panelists, please?
He is also there. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, just give a brief introduction, Preeti, so that we can save time.
I'm going to introduce a person who doesn't need any introduction. That's Mr. Ashok Pandey. Thank you so much for switching on the camera. And if I go on reading your profile, maybe we'll end up having this webinar. But just to sum it up, an author of various articles, educational travelogue, recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award by Ferguson Humanity Foundation International. And should I just take the mention the list of the awards?
Please move to Malini. Yeah.
Okay, then I would request Anita to move.
Yes, our next speaker is an astute and dynamic educational leader and is currently the chairperson of the NPSC. She's also a resource person and trainer for the Faculty Development Research Center of the Army Welfare Education Society. I hereby welcome Ms. Malini Narayan. Thank you, ma'am, and we are glad that you could join us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And last not the least, it's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Damayanti Mukherjee, a trained postgraduate in English literature. Thank you, member switching on your camera, has been involved with national and international curricula for the past 27 years. She has worked in Delhi Public School, Assam, Nasa School, Hyderabad, and there's a long list of schools where she has worked. She has taught CBSE, ICSE, ISC, IGCSE, you name it, all the boards, and she has done it all. She joined Modern High School for Girls, Kolkata as principal in 2015. Ms. Mukherjee is also a TEDx speaker and serves international IB organization independently as a subject expert. It's a pleasure to have all of you. Now begin with
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Kar.
Thank you for those introductions, Anita. Am I audible? Am I clear?
Yes. Ma'am, you're audible.
All right. So, good morning, guten Morgen, and namaskar. Thank you, Goethe Institute, for inviting me to the first virtual principals conference. And thank you for those wonderful presentations. I'm hugely excited by the concept of children's universities and a digital children's university as well. It's a wonderful opportunity to interact with principals from all over India and outside as well. Now, if you don't mind, I'll switch off the video because the sound quality gets affected. So may I do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, we have been talking about 21st century education for years and years. In fact, a time came when I used to be quite tired of this term. Oh dear, again, there is a panel discussion on 21st century education. But today, in 2020, there is a reason for us to revisit 21st century education. And that is why we need to address this very seriously. And the reason is covered by the second part of our topic, and that is online education, how it can bridge the gaps. Now, online education has become extremely important all over the world because we are dependent on e-education. We do not want learning to be interrupted in any way, and that is why we're taking this so seriously. Now, before we proceed, I thought I should clarify the scope of our discussion this morning. From the questions that were sent to us, I gather that there are varied expectations from principals. I'm sure you will appreciate that it is not possible to address all these concerns. And now I do not think we have much time, and I would request the panelists to please keep the responses short. We will not be discussing technological aspects of online education. You will get that plenty on the net and from various people. Comparison of digital platforms and so on. We cannot address the question of the very, very important question of the digital divide. But I'm sure you will all be happy to know that the government has now put everything on a fast track to expand connectivity and to make devices available to children. No child should be left behind. That should be a motto. So in the next 2 months, I believe, everything has been put on fast track. And another issue which we can't address, it is very complex, and it should be addressed by appropriate experts, and that is the question of mental health, which is of great concern. So this morning, we are going to discuss how we can make the most of virtual learning. And just now we talked about learning without borders, and I was thinking that if in order to do that, we will have to change our sleep patterns and cycles as well to be able to talk to people all over the world. Now, my first question will be to Mr. Pandey. Mr. Pandey, in the last 3 to 4 months, we have been largely confined in our homes. Now, with regard to teaching and learning, do you think we have learned any important lessons? Or do you think we're just filling up time until we go back to our respective campuses?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Goethe Institute. My relationship is very, very long, and therefore I'm emotionally wedded to Goethe Institute, and any such platform only makes me nostalgic. Thank you, Malini and Damayanti, my very senior colleagues. Devi ma'am, you have asked a very, very good question, and I will answer it in two parts. One is the direct question, one is the context. And the context is that COVID-19 is such a huge turning point in all our lives that 7 billion people all of a sudden on this earth were locked in their houses. 1.7 billion children, schools were locked for them. Almost by default, we started looking inwards, and we allowed nature and Mother Earth to flourish, smile a bit, and breathe a little more freely. And therefore, this turning point and crisis put us all into inflection point in a reflective mode, and gave us an opportunity to create, innovate, and explore the possibilities of how we can not only survive, but come out of it thriving in a very, very sustainable manner. And therefore, I think there is a saying that if a mind is stretched to new dimensions, there is very little chance for it to go back to its previous position. And this is a widely held position. I have reason to believe it. And therefore, my first answer to your question, almost by instinct, is that no, we will not go back. We are intelligent human beings. We will learn lessons out of this. But I would also put a bit of caveat to the whole thing, that if we do not introspect, and if you do not jot down those lessons, and if you do not prepare for the future, we may not go back, but we may still suffer. And therefore, it is very, very important for all of us, and particularly in the light of the mental health issue that you raised, ma'am, I am very, very tempted to say that we have to prepare. If you want to sow the seeds of goodness, sow the seeds of well-being, sow the seeds of good education for the children, I think we have to prepare a bed of soil which is very well curated, which is very well watered, it has sunlight, it has manure to it, and that in education is provided by what we call socio-emotional learning. And in my opinion, socio-emotional learning provides the bedrock for cognitive and for further flourishing. Yeah.
Mr. Pandey, may I interrupt you?
Yes,
I would
I
like you to address this issue of social and emotional learning a little later, because that is a very, very important point.
Okay, yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah.
So may I please ask Ms. Narayanan Malini the next question. Ms. Narayanan, could you identify some of the benefits? You see, all the time we are being told about the drawbacks of online education. People are grumbling, people are talking about the lack of devices, poor connectivity, and all those things. But definitely there are benefits and advantages, and that is what our discussion is about today. So could you tell us some of the benefits definitely that we have? Online education.
Sure. Namaskar. First, let me thank Goethe for giving us the opportunity to talk about this at all. And congratulations on Kinder Uni. I think that's a big step forward, and it's going to bring a lot of excitement in our classrooms. So talking about the opportunities, I think to make most of adversity, this is a chance to do that. And this disruption has brought us that unique opportunity. While we are all very, very anguished about the numerous number of children and the entire populace which are denied the possibility of this kind of digital learning, we also need to understand that unless we deepen our engagement of this digital learning with our children, the ones who have may not benefit entirely. So therefore, today we will not talk about those who do not have access, because that's a different conversation entirely. I think we need to now focus on, now that we have made most of this disruption, we have tried and explored, tried to connect with our children, bridged, established links and bridges to connect with them. How do we now deepen it, and how do we deepen that engagement? So let me quickly list out a few important aspects of this digital learning. I think first is about flexibility. We've always talked about anytime, anywhere learning, and that we now talk about not being limited by time and space. When we are connecting with the children, there are classes that are happening, though we are trying to adhere to school hours, but there is so much being done by the school beyond that school hour too. One is that flexibility of time and space. We are not limited by our classroom, the walls of the classroom. We can now bring in multiple levels. We can talk about a single theme across different verticals. So those are new things that we would try out during our digital learning. The other important thing about this entire concept is about personalizing learning. We've always dealt with 40 children and paucity of time, how so many we couldn't take with us during our conversations in classroom. So this personalized aspect is not just limited to the cognitive spheres, we are also talking about the personality, the selfdom, the character. So let's leave that cognitive bit aside. We know we can connect through classrooms, we can bring the world to our classroom, we can access resources at any time, we can move from the classroom of India within India, and we can look at classrooms abroad too. We can connect with children across the world. So those are possibilities in the cognitive field that many of us have already explored, and Goethe is talking about it all the time because it does those experiments. Now I want to actually talk about how we can connect with a child individually by zooming in and connecting with him at a personal level. So while multiple teachers can sit and discuss a lot of aspects with one single child, similarly, every single teacher can also connect with a single child. So this is about building uniqueness in the child, bringing in solutions to his other issues of, how do I do this? How do I handle this? Crisis management, talking about unhappiness or happiness, moments that he wanted to share with you, which he couldn't do in class. So that is what is special about this. You can zoom into a single child, you can zoom out to the entire world. So that specific digital opportunity was never available to us in the classroom. And of course, we have always talked about smaller cohorts to address issues, larger groups to collaborate with, connect with the rest of the world, bring in our online resources into the classroom where the world opens up to you. In your digital classroom, you can access anything, anytime, anywhere. So making children work on multiple platforms, making children work on multiple projects, and yet personalizing it, addressing every single child is what the new opportunity brings to us. So I would like to home on to three important aspects, which is of course the flexibility, the personal connection, and of course reaching out to the last child, not just the last child, reaching out to the specially abled who we haven't been able to address in the initial few months. We have now learned new ways of connecting with them and bringing that learning to them in an personalized way. Thank you.
Thank you, Malini. That was very clearly explained. Never really taken opportunity of this until COVID-19 struck, I know that I myself have attended courses that were available earlier, but it's only now that I'm exploring. I attended a course on modern China. I attended a course on the science of well-being and so on, and the whole world has opened. So I think all of us can be happy about this online education instead of being upset about the disadvantages. Now I'll go on to Damayanti. So Damayanti, can I see you? Yes. Well, since this is a Goethe Institute event, and even otherwise, language would always become a focal point of this kind of discussion. Learning and language cannot be separated. So when we teach language, is it only to facilitate communication? Did you get my...
Yes, I did. Guten Tag, everyone. And when we look at this question of language and the way we incorporate language learning, I think our presentation on Kinder University has actually delved into this topic so beautifully that there is very little for me to really contribute to it, because here we heard that Constantine very clearly said that we are not talking about science in language, but we are talking about other content and language. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to talk a little bit in terms of this as taking this forward into this concept of, can we do customization of learning for students in this virtual domain? Now, when we talk about...
Damayanti, I'll interrupt you here.
Yes.
I would have gone into this customizing. Actually, Malini also touched on it. Certainly, yes. I would ask you to do that. But just immediately, although you have said that the slides that had been presented by Goethe Institute, they gave us ideas of the cultural activities. But could I ask you, for example, you know that our students participated in this food hacking, in how to preserve the ecosystem, all kinds of things. And that is the integration of content and learning. But I'm talking about cultural activities. We saw some of those lovely slides on music and so on. But online, are those things possible?
Mrs. Kaur, I have lost you.
Can you hear me now?
I didn't catch the last bit of what you asked.
Are cultural activities promoting cultural awareness, is that possible online?
Absolutely. Now, when we have started on the premise that there is nothing called time and space now. So that becomes, with those two dimensions of our life not being of much restraint now, when we talk about cultural activities, it can be something that is cross borders, it can be internal, it can be something that we organize as inter-school, as intra-school, as within a school community. And in this aspect, the whole intention is that we share thoughts. We also recognize that people with differences can also be right. And with that premise of respect on recognition of differences and going on to celebration of differences, that we can assimilate different thoughts and emotions, and the practical ways in which to do are, of course, the virtual platforms. And here the joy is that this can be the true empowerment of students, because students, frankly speaking, are much more conversant in the digital pattern.
Your mic is muted, Mrs. Mukherjee.
Yes. Yes, I'm unmuted now. So what happens is that with that comfort level coming in from them, we can have virtual hosting of almost everything from money to, inter-school events, even collaborative projects together. And here I have seen that many schools are doing this. They otherwise perhaps we would be constrained by a city. For example, if we were to host something in Kolkata as an inter-school event, we would look at the logistics. Will the schools be able to come? Where will we host them? But now that constraint is not there. When we want to host something, we can go beyond the confines of the city. And this is something wonderful that has happened. And
Yes.
also the platforms, the digital platforms of disseminating information. Now we are, and I know I beg pardon of everyone, but I think we are all guilty of this. We do get disturbed by the use of platforms like Instagram or Facebook and the other social media platforms. We do know that they do have a negative, aspect, and they can be used negatively. However, here I'm going to talk about the positive and the very constructive usage of this. Now, disseminating information about events, give it to the students, trust them to do the right thing. And then we see that, they can connect, the interconnection in the student world, their networking. Sometimes it is so amazing that, it can, make us wonder that, all the years that we have spent in using our soft skills, whether this, much younger adults, do they have it better than us already or not? So these are the ways, Mrs. Ford, that I would say that, cultural activities can be incorporated into this digital world, and of course, they
So I'll come back to
towards greater.
all right. So Mr. Pandey, you did mention social and emotional learning.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Tackle this online, Mr. Pandey. Could you please elaborate on that?
Yes. So two things. What I was referring to, that if we have to do anything online or in person, we need our children to be prepared for that. And that preparedness has become even more important because all of us, adults and children alike, are suffering this collective trauma, fear, and anxiety of this unknown virus. And that preparedness, I was trying to give an analogy that if we want to sow a seed which we want to sprout, we must prepare a nice bed of soil. And in this nice bed of soil in education is provided by the cushioning of socio-emotional learning. Socio-emotional learning works at three levels: cognitive level, intrapersonal, and interpersonal level, which means how we think, how we direct our thinking, how we manage our communications, how we critically examine things will come in the critical domain, and then how we within us we prepare our responses, and how we manage our relationship with others. These are the differences between intra and interpersonal relationships. Now imagine if both, not only children, teachers and children both, if we do not know how to manage our fears and anger and emotions, we don't know how to make right decisions, we don't know how to manage relationship, we don't know how to communicate, how can we build on our learning? The researchers have proved that socio-emotional learning is an accelerator. It is a catalyst to cognitive learning, and it improves performance there as well. So having said the importance of socio-emotional learning, my suggestion is that we have to embed it in our all the subjects. It doesn't have to be a separate subject. How we build empathy through the teaching of physics. So teaching of physics, helping people to understand the nature, to understand the nature of whatever happening around us, and to take our decisions in the light of that, discussing about issues which are discomfortable to us, discussing about issues which children have in their mind, and even if an adult answers it to them, they would like their teacher only to answer it because that gives them the greatest satisfaction. So that is where I'm coming from, that in our online classes, connectivity with the children, emotional bonding with the children, discussion with them on the uncomfortable issues, giving them support to build resilience, and encouraging them to be kind, forgiving, taking their decisions in the best interest of everybody. So we have to design activities, and a whole lot of activities are available. How we can, direct thinking in the classroom, how we can manage group discussions, how we can give leadership to the children to initiate the discussion and close the discussion. So a whole lot of issue is there. And it is only a question of our thinking that how much importance and significance we give to socio-emotional learning, and then only we can design activities around it. So that is where I'm coming from. If you have any other thing, and if time permits, I can elaborate upon it.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pandey. But you have demonstrated that the
Yes.
core issue is actually pedagogy. It's not technology. After you have achieved a certain standard of comfort, I feel that it is designing of the lessons and how we interact with the students that would be really important. And here I'll ask Malini. Malini, can you add another dimension to what Mr. Pandey has said? Because whatever we say, how can we shake off this feeling of isolation, this feeling of distancing? I'm not talking about online education in the future, when we can have a blended form, we can have in-person classes. But I'm talking about now, when there is all this physical distancing, and we have to be at home, we can't go to campus, our school campus, we can't interact with our friends. So how do we address this? Because it's a very, very important concern of all educators. How do we do that?
Yeah, Mrs. Kar, I think the process has already begun because, like you said, initial explorations have happened. Now we are actually in the stage where we know now that we need to be there for the children, and the process of 120 days that has actually scarred many of the children in multiple ways. We don't know how it's impacted the children. So personal connect in different schools, different methodologies are being adopted. And of course, the volunteer groups are coming in. So let me quickly list out maybe a few processes that have happened in this course of time, how every school has taken a different pathway to connect with their children. There have been circle times which we've always had in school, which have been organized online. Teachers have connected with the children in the morning assemblies. There have been a series of activities organized for the morning assembly itself, starting from meditation, starting from talks, starting from positive reinforcements. So the idea of spreading positivity in this time when the news is filled with bleak information regarding people suffering, how many have been homeless, how many have suffered the disease, how many have lost their near and dear ones. There, when the teachers come in every morning to meet the children, there is a prayer, a gratitude prayer being offered every morning to say, let's say thank you for the wonderful things that are going to happen to us this morning. So that is the first connect that is happening. Connecting at a personal level. Like Mr. Pandey said, it is not about the history, geography, physics of this entire thing, because we've always believed that it is that one-to-one connect, the relationship that is built with the children that holds us in good stead. So identifying anguish, identifying disturbance in their nature, identifying that little distance that the child is feeling, not being able to share with his peers, not being able to, especially amongst the teens, not being able to spend the entire day without a little, issue with the parent. All those issues, when the teacher, establishes that bond, that one child who's waiting outside the staff room to try and connect with you to share something, that can be done online with the child, and this platform has helped us do that. So yes.
Thank you. And on a light note, I think we should not be very serious all the time. A sense of humor goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now I go to my colleague Damayanti. Damayanti, where are you? Can I see you?
I'm there. I'm
Okay.
there. I'm there.
Good. So connected with this social and emotional learning is personalization. You had started on it, and customization. It is the individual that we would like to address. So can you just briefly touch on that? How do we customize?
In fact, I must admit that while I was looking at the discussion aspects of the program, this was something that I was dying to talk about, because many times, when we talk about personalized or customization of learning, what flashes before our eyes is that room full of children, 40 children. So when I'm talking about customization, am I talking about 40 learning packs? Certainly not. And this is what we need to kind of understand and talk about. This is not customization and personalization in terms of multiplied by the number of students in the class, but the concept of differentiation. And when we talk about differentiation, we talk about differentiation in all aspects of learning, from the content aspect, which is to do with knowledge and skill, from the aspect of the process, that is the activities that we conceive, what we plan about in order to transact the content, and the product. That is the demonstration of the learning, that is the methods that are used in order to accept that demonstration of learning. And in all of this, the governing word is openness, and the second governing word is choice. Now, differentiation are of two types. One is the vertical differentiation. Vertical differentiation is fairly easy to do. It is that a child is an advanced learner, so you give more complex work, or you give some more work. So quantity and quality, an enhancement of that. So it's fairly easy to do. But what is this horizontal differentiation about? That is tough. We all know, and we have studied in our B.Ed courses, or later on in life, we've talked about multiple intelligence and all of this. We are not going to mix up between multiple intelligence and learning styles, but we are going to draw a kind of an analogy between the two. And in that, if we look at the basic WARP model, which is the visual, auditory, reading, learning, reading, writing group, and the kinesthetic, these 4 learning styles, we know that we can divide the students in our class, whatever be the number, into these 4 categories. Now, when we have shifted to this online mode, and rather we are restricted by the online mode, what happens is that the natural tendency in a physical classroom to emphasize upon reading and writing, that takes a power shift. So now we are looking at all the other ways of learning, and we are looking for resources. Teachers are looking for resources in the online domain. So therefore, we are looking at visual resources, we're looking at auditory resources. And in fact, I am again going to go back to the presentation on Kinder University, because this was actually a practical demonstration of what I am talking about, the differentiation. and the differentiation in approach to learning. Now, let's look at the content perspective, and I'll take a very little, an example about it.
I just wanted to tell you.
I don't want to take up much time. Now, we usually
already overshot, so we really have to wrap up.
Yes, absolutely. Now, the point is that, we usually, when we teach literature, we are looking at a particular textbook. Now, in an online, in a differentiated mode, why can't I tell a student that, why don't you take an audio book? If you are finding, and I'm going to, make some very, very, broad statements here. I want to teach Hamlet, yet my students are unable to get Hamlet. What restricts me to tell them that, what constrains me to tell them that take an alternate textbook, hear Hamlet, watch Hamlet, excerpts of the play on YouTube, and construct your own learning. And when I'm ready to do that, and I have to be also ready to accept the production of their, or synthesis of their learning. And we can take, say, suppose somebody is somebody wants to do a presentation on a learning of a particular poem. Now, I have various learners in my class, and to an advanced learner for whom doing a PowerPoint and doing these things that have also become blasé, say that, why don't you embed a bit of a music into your presentation? And instead of those, templated ones in the Microsoft Office domain, why don't you import a music file? And see, if you are a German learner, why don't you take a German musician, take a German composer, and all right, you are a Fit 1 level, so your learning of German is not very, very advanced. But what you can do, that one particular slide, do a little bit of research on this composer and share your understanding about this composer. So what happens is that multiple strands come into the play. And this is what I wanted to talk about in terms of looking at the individual capacities, capabilities, and trying to address this in a standardized manner, but in more options than what we use in the in a physical classroom, or we end up using in a physical classroom. Let's put it that way.
That can be done so well online, isn't that so? That's what we are discussing.
Yes.
All right. So I'm asking Anita and PT. It's already 12:50, and we were supposed to discuss assessment. Do you think that we should, or do you think we should just take questions? Because everybody has a schedule, everybody has.
Should we quickly ask the participants?
Yes, please ask the participants, because honestly, to address assessment, which is such an important, everybody's talking about assessment. We need a little time, but
or maybe what we can do is, that's a suggestion, 10 minutes more is okay. Do you think we'll be, managing it in 10 minutes?
Personally feel that if you ask participants to ask us questions on assessment, that would be quicker. Then we will respond.
Perfect. So please write your queries about assessment in the chat, and then the panelists will take on that. Meanwhile, I would request all the panelists to turn on their cameras.
Yeah.
And also our colleagues from Goethe Institute.
Malini, turn your camera, please, for the photo of. Yes.
Are you there, Mohita? Jati.
Okay.
Summarize the questions.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Meanwhile, while they're writing the thing, we thought we'll just turn on our cameras.
You can.
Constantine.
I begin
a little closer so that you give more of your head. Yeah. Yes.
Is it better?
Little more.
Has been already asked. It is about invigilating. Do we need to buy software? How do we supervise the children when they are writing their tests and so on? That is a question that is often asked. Now, I always say that we should begin. I think the other day, Mr. Pandey used the word gracefully. Give your grades gracefully. Don't keep policing and threatening. Of course, we have to keep an eye on children, but they will respect you, they'll respect their work if we go on instilling in them that it doesn't really pay to be dishonest in these things, because it is learning that we're actually trying to achieve. And this sort of thing, I feel that teachers should focus on more. Nowadays, it's all about how do we catch children, how do you agree with that? So that part of it also has to be addressed. And yes, they do have to write tests and exams, and we have to cater for those as well. We have to be practical. But the first part shouldn't be forgotten. So another question, please, about assessment, the different kinds of assessment. Do you want us to address that? Have you got any?
There's one question. Proctoring is needed, subjective, apart from MCQs, how to go about it?
All right. So apart from MCQs, I think I'll ask Malini this question. Just give one example of how we, actually we were talking about formative assessment, because every now and then during our online classes, we could easily do that. So could you please say with us how we do that?
Sure. Instead of worrying about proctoring every single exam, proctoring exams is like bringing back the old classroom into your new digital classroom. There's so much of change that's happened in the classrooms, right? So I don't think constantly class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right till 8th standard, we need to put on that camera and watch over the children while they are doing work. So that is your proctored invigilation that you're worried about. We'll come to that at the senior secondary level, because colleges are anyway doing it. And it's not a concept which is new. It's come to the school new. The word proctored invigilation or proctored examination is an old word which has been used in the university for a long time, in India as well as abroad. I want to talk about the multiple ways of checking on the performance of the child. One is assessment for learning, and the other is, of course, the assessment of learning. So it depends on what your idea of evaluation of the child is. What are you assessing him for? So therefore, while you're taking the lessons, whether any of the platforms can be used, instead of looking for that one large, long 1 hour exam, I would suggest as the lesson goes by, as the learning is happening, we take polls, we take quizzes, we can take MCQs. And if you feel at the end of it, you still are not happy to know whether you still want to know more about what the child has learned and whether he can actually write something more about what you've just finished teaching, you can give him a research assignment. The idea is now move from you taking over the stage to leaving the child to start the process of learning himself. So it should be more towards self-directed learning. So whatever is your testing, it should ensure that the child moves out of your class and takes over, picks up that assignment saying, I want to know more about this. So every single question in that assignment sheet should motivate him to pick up your assignment instead of saying, I'll do it another day. So that should be the idea of how the assessment goes. So it should be a formative form of assessment so that the learning loop gets covered and is established, so that you can go back and say, now I feel the entire class has this as an issue, so I'm going to look at it, revisit it again, and again test again to see whether I've achieved my goals.
Thank you, Malini.
Thank you.
Question.
Mrs. Kar, may I come in for a minute? Yeah.
Yes, do come.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. You refer to Grace. Let me complete it. What I'm suggesting, my very distinguished colleagues here, love before lesson, relationship before rigor, and grace before grade. And that will propel you into an arena where you will start thinking about flexible assessments and flexibility at 3 levels. Number 1, exercise several tools of assessment. So not only paper and pencil as we call it traditionally, make it presentation, video making, class leading discussion, all forms of assessment. First, flexibility. Second, flexibility. Why only individual tests? Let's make it group test also. Let them work something in a group, and that is also evaluated. And the third flexibility is, when I was a child, my teacher used to say that if you read a book and you write something from that, you also learn a lot. And when I grew older as a young teacher, I converted it into an open book test. So please give open book test also, because if learning is the whole motivation, let them see in the book, and if they can find out where is the answer, that in itself is a learning, and that will help them in making decision, in evaluating, in analyzing, in directing their own learning. So there are a whole lot of issues, and therefore my request is to exercise these things.
We should
Thank you.
encourage.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me opportunity.
Not at all. And here people are concerned about the board examinations, the 3-hour board examinations. I'm coming to that. But associated with what you said, love before lesson, I'm reminded of this class 8 student who told me many, many years ago that, do you know, I never cheat in
I think ma'am Carl is having some internet issues. Just bear for a minute, maybe she'll be back. Mr. Pandey, may I request you to take over? Meanwhile, Ms. Kaur joins us.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Preeti, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Pandey.
So I think we can take another question, because Mrs. Kaur was narrating an anecdote which I am not privy to.
She was talking about board
meantime, Damayanti, can you suggest any flexible testing method, particularly for languages?
Mrs. Kaur is back, so if she's able to connect, let us continue. Otherwise, I'll answer your question, Mr. Pandey. Mrs. Kaur, are you able to? No, she's frozen. So, all right. Now,
ma'am, we can't hear you.
Mrs. Kaur, you're not audible.
Yeah, Damayanti, I think you can continue. Yes.
I think I'll take this.
We're running short of time.
And yes. So what we let's not look at only from the language perspective. I'll talk about just 2 very practical methods of looking at this board examination question also. See, one thing is that, of course, somebody has written about exam.net, which is running free this year. So we can look at it as one of the options. Second is that Google Classroom has this option of scheduled assignments, which are timed assignments. So one can frame a long summative kind of assignments that we need to perhaps introduce for the class 9, 10, 11, 12, that segment. Another one is that if it is possible for your children to submit assignments online. Now in the Google Doc, if you tell them that instead of emailing an assignment, what you do is that you send and share a Google Doc with me. Now Google Doc has the option of the history. So what happens is that if you want to ascertain whether a question that should be answered in, or a series of questions which should be answered in 1 hour, whether the child is using more time or not, all that the teacher needs to do is just check the history, and the last login will show that whether the time frame that was instructed has been followed or not. These are some practical ways. But apart from that, of course, there are many alternate ways in which are what we should be looking at. I am just addressing the concern about the long summative assessments that were raised. But Mrs. Kaur, you are back now. Please.
Just one more thing. We have also roped in parents in this trust issue, that you please supervise, and I think we have got excellent results from that. Sometimes it is peers. So the more we trust and the more we give them responsibility, I feel this kind of honesty and integrity will develop in students. Preeti, Anita?
Yes, ma'am. I was
Can we wind up now? Should we wind up now? And I would like to thank everybody for your patience and for listening to us and for asking questions. Thank you very much. And I thank the panelists too. Thank you for your responses. And of course, Gertie, for this wonderful opportunity. So should we say in German then? Farewell, see you again.
Just one second. Let us also give an opportunity to thank each one of you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Kaur, for moderating the session so well, so beautifully. And a big thank you to all the panelists for taking these questions. And I am reading in chat the feedback. The way they are reacting, responding to your discussion is incredibly good. And thank you all the participants for taking time out. Please excuse us. We have delayed it by a certain time, but I think it was necessary. And the questions, our colleagues, Jagatin Sagrik has already noted it. We will send it to the panelists and the moderator. And whatever questions are unanswered, we'll get back to you with those. And maybe we'll plan another session if required on an online assessment sooner or later. But a very huge thank you to all of you. And I would request you all just bear for a second, and we just announce the launch of Kinder Uni. So Constantine, can you switch on your camera? Mohita, Balaji, all the colleagues from Goethe Institute, I would request you to switch on your cameras so that we announce the launch of Kinder Uni.
Thank you, Ms. Kaur, Malini, Damayanti, Preeti.
Thank you so much, sir.
Duncan.
Thank you, Mrs. Kaur. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita.
Anita, would you like to
everyone.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you to all the lovely faces on the screen. Thank you, Mr. Constantine from Moscow. Sharath, I can see you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Priyanka.
All pleasures. Pleasure on our.
Is there? Oh, wonderful to
Lovely
see you,
faces. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was great to meet everyone.
Yeah, also from my side, thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Kaur, for moderating the session. Thank you, respected speakers. Thank you, all participants. I, as a teacher myself, this discussion I have benefited hugely from it. And as we are also in program development, we will definitely keep these in mind. The connection with students is also very close to our hearts, and that's what we strive for. Thank you so much. Thank you all for attending. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
All of you, take care of yourself. Remain safe. Stay at home.
Yes, take care. Okay. Bye, Damayanti. Bye. Thank you so much, Preeti.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mrs. Kar. Thank
It
you.
was a pleasure to have
It was
you all.
amazing meeting
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.